Hi everybody and welcome to English Digest. I'm Pat.
And I'm Elsie.
And today we're going to take you through our translation unit. We're going to start off by talking about sort of family matters. It's kind of going to be a difficult first couple of sentences, so let's try and make it a bit more fun with the introduction. Which member or members of our families did we argue with the most, either now or when we were growing up?
When I was growing up, I argued a lot with my mom because I knew that if I argued with her, I could get what I want.
Okay.
But not with my dad, because once he decided something, I couldn't change it.
That's it. Okay. I have two younger brothers, so they're younger enough that there was a point where I felt like I was a proper teenager, and though they were still kids who would just charge around the house screaming and shouting. So a definite point where I just want to have nothing to do with them, where they probably just thought, he's older, he's stupid, we're going to bother him.
Okay.
So yes, definite times where I just wanted to have nothing to do with a pair of idiots. So I'm sure I argued plenty with those.
Did you try to teach them stuff or?
Later, when they were old enough to feel like me, the oldest, they were worth my attention.
Right.
You know, I'm very superior about these kinds of things. Now it's kind of flipped round because my brother had kids first, so I ask him for advice.
Okay.
So, yeah. But yeah, no point arguing with my parents. You never win. So.
What about now?
Again, no point arguing with them. There's nothing to argue about. I'm over here, they're over there.
Yeah, true.
But I'll still call both my brothers idiots every single opportunity I get.
But they didn't get mad or anything.
No, but that's the point of having brothers. You just spend most of your time finding ways to call each other stupid or lazy or incompetent or whatever it happens to be.
Right, I'm the only child, so
who
can I call stupid?
You're married, you've got a husband to call stupid. Okay, so let's take a look at this first sentence. As I said, it's not necessarily a pleasant topic as we've just kind of had a bit of fun with. The sentence one is, a psychological study found that children whose parents often argue with each other will have a tendency to please others.
这边的中文是呢，一项心理研究发现，双亲经常互相争吵的小孩会有取悦他人的倾向。那是心理研究之前的发现，已经发现，所以我们的时态呢要用过去简单式描述已发生的事件。
So when we talk about scientific studies, no matter what kind of science it's about, the study will have some kind of conclusion. And to talk about the conclusion, we can say, the study shows, the study has found, the study has discovered, has revealed, other words like that. And it doesn't even just need to be a scientific study. It could be the results of a vote, the vote has shown that, a questionnaire, the market research has discovered that, has revealed that, and more. So we could say the market research found that the company's latest phone was not as popular as the ones that came before.
研究发现或显示呢，我们可以用 find 或是 discover。那另外呢，这里的研究发现呢，指的是研究结果显示，所以也可以说 show, reveal 或者是 demonstrate。那我们的例句说的是The survey revealed that customers were unhappy with the increasing prices。代表这项研究调查显示呢，消费者很不满意持续成长的物价。
So we're saying that this study has looked at children whose parents often argue and tried to study their psychology. What is their personality like? What will their minds be like and what will they do? And one of the things they found was that they will have a tendency to please others. Maybe they're stressed out by seeing their parents always arguing, so they'll try to find situations to stop there being arguments. They already feel there's too much arguing and fighting in their life, so rather than make an argument, they'll try and please people. And this is a tendency. A tendency is like a habit. It's what people generally do in a particular situation. Not all of the time, but mostly. It's their natural urge, and we can turn it into a verb. People tend to do something in certain situations. So here's an example. I have a tendency to go to bed later on weekends.
有点的倾向，我们可以说 have a tendency to do something， 或者是 show the inclination to do something。那这两个名词呢，分别是从动词 tend 还有 incline 衍生出来的，所以呢，我们也可以用动词的形式下去表示，就是 tend to do something， 或是 incline to do something。还有一个是 be inclined to do something， 那这个是比较常用的哈。那其他常用的用法呢，还有像是 be apt to do something， be prone to do something， 或者是 be likely to do something， 都有易于的意思。The students in this class show the inclination to or are inclined to work together on projects， 代表这班的学生倾向共同完成这份报告。还有一个例句说的是John is apt to study for longer，if he has a study partner to encourage him. John 如果有读书伙伴督促他，就能够念比较久的书。
From those phrases, be prone to is more often used with something negative. He's prone to forget things. He's prone to complain when he doesn't get his way. This child is prone to cry when he's upset. We don't often use be prone to for a positive characteristic.OK,
所以补充说明这个 be prone to do something 我们会用在负面的口吻当中。
Yes, more often. So, children of parents that argue tend to want to please people, as we've said, to stop arguments. To please somebody is to make them feel happy, make them feel good.No matter if you're doing something you really want to or not. And that's what we're going to talk a bit more about in a second sentence. So it's a good thing to please people a lot of the time. You want to make people happy. Bosses, teachers, friends, family. However, it is not healthy to try to do it all of the time, especially at a cost to yourself. Here's a more positive example. John tried to please his girlfriend by cleaning up the house while she was away.
取悦的这个动词我们用 please 这个字，那这边就不是拜托咯，而是取悦。那它有使开心的意思在。常见的用法呢有两种，第一个是 to please somebody， 第二个是 it pleases somebody to do something. So for example, it pleases Rachel to drink her coffee in the garden every morning. 每天早上在花园里面喝咖啡，让 Rachel 感到很高兴。
Hope it's not raining for her.Okay, so we mentioned at the end of that first sentence that pleasing people all the time is not necessarily something you should try to do all the time. And sentence 2 expands on this and says, this type of person will put others first and ignore their own needs in order to get attention and recognition from them.
这一句的中文是呢，这一类的人会把他人摆在第一，并忽略自己的需求，借以从他们身上得到关注或认可。那这个时态呢，他在讲的是一个事实，所以我们用现在简单式。
So we talked about how always trying to please others can be unhealthy. That's because you're putting others first. To put someone first is to make their needs more important than anyone else's, even your own.Now, sometimes you need to put other people first, especially children, people you love. You go, okay, your needs are more important than mine. That's a very important thing to learn because if you don't learn it, you'll be a selfish person who just only thinks about yourself. However, sometimes you need to put your own needs first. You need to take care of yourself. You can't ignore your own needs and feelings always to do something for somebody else.So here's an example sentence. Shelley feels like her boyfriend never puts her first, so she's starting to wonder about their relationship.
把点点点摆在第一位我们可以说 put somebody first. 那如果是把事情摆在第一位 put something first. 那摆第一就是给予优先权，所以呢，我们也可以说 give somebody or something priority.Yeah,
we can use this for things as well, often in a more sort of work or study-based. I'm going to put this first because it's an important piece of work. I'm going to put this first because I need to eat some dinner if I'm going to study. Otherwise, I'm going to feel hungry all the time. So you can talk about putting something first or giving something priority because of its importance. That's less about feelings and often more about being practical.But in this case, we're talking about putting other people's needs first so much that you ignore your own needs. If you ignore something, you think of it or treat it as unimportant. You don't pay attention to it. And sometimes this happens by accident. You're just so busy, you ignore something. But sometimes this is a choice. You choose not to give something the attention that perhaps it deserves in order to deal with something else. So, and this is one that I think both Elsie and I as teachers will recognize. The teacher sometimes ignores her quieter students because the noisier ones demand more attention.
True. 那忽略呢，我们会用 ignore， 还可以用 neglect 或是 overlook， 还有一个是 disregard。那上面这些我们刚刚讲过的都是及物动词，表达有意的不去理会应注意的事物。所以例句给的是呢 The police could not disregard the evidence they found at the crime scene. 警方必须正视他们在犯案现场发现的证据。
And why do people do this? Because they want attention, approval, and recognition. The idea is just like when they wanted their parents to notice them and give them love instead of arguing. So children who grow up in these kind of families, they come to hate conflict. So they try to avoid it at all costs by pleasing others, even at the cost to themselves.Now, when we talk about recognition, we don't mean the verb or the noun of the verb recognize. We don't mean looking at something and knowing who or what it is. Here, recognition means being thought of as useful, worthy, deserving of some kind of praise or attention for what they've done and how they've behaved. So the idea is they try to treat people well so people will turn to them and instead of arguing, instead of having some kind of conflict, they will say, "Good job.Well done. It's great. Thank you for being so helpful." And then everything seems friendly and there's no arguments or fighting or anything that they've really come to have a problem with. Here's another sentence that we could use recognition in the same way to mean. The employee was given a pay raise in recognition of his good work.
认可呢，我们可以用 recognition 或者是 acknowledgement。那常常会使用的方式是 in recognition of 或者是 in acknowledgement of， 表示呢以表彰或是以感谢之意。那例句说到的是Greta was given an award in recognition of all the work she had done for the community. Greta 获得一个奖以表扬她对社区的付出。那你也可以把 recognition 换成 acknowledgement。Yes,
just showing that whatever you've done has been kind of noticed and we've said, yeah, that's good. We should make people aware that this was done. It's something worthy of note. All right, we're going to take a short break now, and when we come back, we'll be looking at part B of our translation article. Don't go away. Hi everyone, welcome back. We're on our translation unit today and we're about to start part B, which is all about military service, which obviously has been in the news at the back end of last year when it was increased from sort of 4 months to what now, a year of military service. So this is something that when I came to Taiwan, I'd heard of, but not had any real first experience of. The UK does not have military service.
So you mean when you were first here in Taiwan, they only had to serve for 4 months?
No, I've been here long enough that it was still around a year when I first arrived.
Right.
And then it got changed a couple of times. And then it got, more recently, it's been changed back. Now, I was aware of this idea. When I went to university, I met some people from countries that do have military service.
Right.
A guy from Denmark, where, as far as I know, it's still there. A guy from South Korea, where it's definitely still there because technically the Korean War has never ended and South and North Korea are still...
True. They have to be ready all the time.
Exactly. So, and they had different things to say about it. They talked about learning martial arts. Some of them talked about kind of how fun it was to do it for a bit. But when I came to Taiwan, some of the people I talked to early on said they mostly remembered things like getting up really early in the morning to go for runs. And they talked about bad food.
Oh.
And some of them said, I was actually in a tank unit and it was kind of fun to drive a tank and stuff.
Okay.
So it does seem to be a bit of a gamble. Like a lot of people will say it's bad, I'm forgetting about it. And 1 or 2 people say, yeah, it was kind of fun times.
I think a 1-year military service is better than only 4 months. If you only let those guys do 4 months, then what's the point?
I guess it depends, yeah. What is the purpose? Is it to train? What kind of training do you need to give people? And how much of this is just getting wild young men to get some discipline in them at the right kind of age? Because, certainly in the UK, men just leaving university are going to be quite wild, and maybe it would be a good thing.
And just let them be wild.
I think some military cadets are still wild. I do remember being in Kending at one point, and a group of people on leave from their army service were just on the beach, and they were having a lot of fun.
Oh, that's good.
So
good for them.
Yeah. Now, what do you think women should do it too? Question for you.
That's a good question. And I don't know how to answer that question. Women should do military service. I think...
Because there's plenty, I don't mean that
why do men have to do this and women don't?
Yeah, because I'm not saying that women, they can, but they wouldn't have to do all the real physical same stuff if they didn't want to. There are lots of other military roles that don't involve carrying a big load of rocks in a backpack and running for 10 miles over a country road.
Right.
There are other roles.
So here, if women are interested in doing so, they can join.
Yeah, it seems like modern military should have, lots of roles that involve computers, data analysis, targeting with weapons. It doesn't take a big, strong boy to press a button that fires a missile. So why wouldn't you make women do this too?
So maybe men and women both have to do the same thing.
Yeah, you can kind of do different sorts of jobs and experiences of it. But do you think it gives girls an unfair advantage getting jobs? Because they can start straight after university where the men are taken off for a year to do army stuff.
Yeah, and also in our society, women are always, more gentler and better work.
They've never met my wife.
Or me.
You'd be fine in the army. You'd be great at yelling at people on a parade ground.
Or it's just a stereotype,
Well, anyway, so a lot that we could get into our teeth into here. A lot that could be a whole article by itself.
Yeah, a lot to talk about.
But we're looking at our sentences here. The first one is, in late December 2022, the Taiwanese government announced that all male citizens born after 2005 will have to complete a 1-year compulsory military service.
这边的中文是呢，台湾政府于西元2022年12月底宣布，西元2005年以后出生的男性公民都将必须完成1年的义务兵役。那时态呢，我们要用过去简单式描述已经发生的事件。
So this change applies to male citizens. A citizen is someone who is legally recognized as a subject or member of a country or a state. Now, this could be by birth. They were born in that country to parents from that country, in which case they are native citizens. They could also become a citizen later if they live in that country for a long time, in which case we call it a naturalized citizen. I am a citizen of the UK. I can't become a citizen of Taiwan unless I give up my UK one first. I'd rather not. However, my father, being born in Northern Ireland, is an Irish citizen, so I can become both an Irish and a British citizen if I decide to apply. My children can be British. In fact, they are. They're already British citizens. They're already Taiwanese citizens. They could get 3 if they choose to become Irish citizens.
Oh, so they can have 3 citizenships.
3 citizenships, 3 passports,
cool.
should they desire.
OK, 公民呢，我们可以译作 citizen。那如果要说是台湾的公民，那就是 a citizen of Taiwan， 或者是 a Taiwanese citizen.
So before we get to what military service is, we've got to look at the word compulsory. Something compulsory is something that you have to do. There is no choice, though there are exceptions and ways out. For example, if your health was very poor, if there were other circumstances, maybe you needed to work to take care of a family, something like that, you don't have to do military service. But without one of these rules or exceptions that let you out, It's something you must do. Other things that are compulsory include paying taxes on your income, getting a passport if you want to travel abroad, and so on. So you might say, it's compulsory for my company to provide me with health insurance.
义务的有几个形容词可以表示哦。第一个就是呢，我们刚刚讲到的 compulsory， 再来 mandatory 也是义务的，再来一个就是 obligatory。好，他们都表示呢，依法规定的义务或者是必须履行的。那例句给的是呢 ，In this restaurant, it is mandatory for each customer to pay for their food when they order。在这间餐厅里头呢，每一位客人在点餐的时候都必须先付款。
Yeah, like McDonald's. You don't eat your food and then pay later. You pay when you order it. So military service, this is becoming a soldier or being in the Navy or the Air Force, but only for a short period. In this case, it's a year now, and it's not something you volunteer for. You don't say, I want to join the army. I'm from a military family. I'm going to become a soldier. It's not a career choice. This is just something you have to do at a certain age, and it's seen as getting some training in weapons and tactics and things like maybe first aid, public safety, rescuing people from buildings, because it could be training for a future war, but it's also like giving service to your country. You've just had, however many 12 years of education, a lot of that's going to be paid for by the country. So this is giving something back to the country because you might do jobs like clearing up after a natural disaster. You might become a traffic policeman for a bit. You might help to build something or create something or destroy old buildings. These are all kinds of jobs that people in the armed forces might do. It's not just fighting in a war. People in the armed forces do help the country in other ways. So I found this out by Googling. Young men in South Korea must complete at least 18 months of military service.
Oh, 18 months.
Yep, so 6 months longer than what it's become here.
那兵役呢，我们可以说是 military service， 那动词搭配的是 do, perform 或是 fulfill one's military service， 那都有服兵役的意思。
So sentence 2 then of part of this talks about how people feel about it. It says, the decision may go against many young people's will, but many believe it necessary to extend the period for the sake of national security.
这句的中文是呢，这项决定啊，也许违背许多年轻人的意愿，但许多人相信为了国家安全的缘故，延长役期是必要的。那时态我们要用现在简单式描述事实。
So a lot of young men may not be happy about this law change. And as I said in the introduction to this part, I've been in Taiwan long enough to remember when it was made shorter, and I remember a lot of my male students being happy because they spoke of military service as this thing in their future, this uncomfortable, unpleasant, necessary thing they needed to get out the way before they could start their real life. And that's why we say this decision goes against young people's will. It's not something they want. It's not something they desire. Because to go against something means to oppose it, to disagree with it. So we might say the decision to stop letting workers work from home went against the workers' will.
违背我们用到介系词 against， 还有副词 counter， 好，这两个它都有相反对立的意思，可是在用法上面要特别小心哦。我们可以用 go or run against， 或者是 run counter to 来表示与点点点的期望或是意愿相反或是相悖。For example, the new law ran counter to the politicians' previous promises， 代表这项新法与那位政治人物先前的承诺是相左相违背的。
And when we talk about will, we mean people's desires, what they want. There are a bunch of different expressions that involve people's will, and you can use it as a verb. You will something to happen, meaning you really want it. You wish for it to happen. And if you had the power, you could actually make it happen. For example, Sean's legs hurt, but he willed himself to keep going and finish the race.
意愿我们可以用 will 这个字，那绝大多数情况下呢，它是一个单数名词，有几个以下常见的惯用法特别注意哦。第一个 do something of one's own free will， 那 free 可以省略掉，表示是某人自己要做点点点的。那第二个是 impose one's will on or upon somebody， 那它的意思是把自己的意愿强加在某人的身上。第三个 do something at will， 那就是有随心所欲的做好的意思。那第一个例句呢，给同学们的是 Once William turned 18, he was able to do more things of his own free will， 代表当威廉满18岁的时候，他就能够依照自己的意志去做更多的事情。再来我们用 impose 来看一下这个例句哦。My parents imposed their will on me in order to keep me safe。 为了确保我的安全，我的父母要我按照他们的意愿做事。那最后一个呢，我们看到的是 The contract states that employees of this company may quit their job at will， 代表这份合约说明这间公司的员工可以随时离职。
Now, as I said earlier, I remember when the military service was reduced, but now it's been extended again. To be extended means to be made longer, either in distance or time or various other things like that. You might say class will be extended by 10 minutes so we can finish the lesson properly.
延长我们可以用 extend 或者是 lengthen， 好，这个动词也是可以的。
So, it may be unpopular, but this decision has been made by the government for the sake of national security, to make the country safer by providing more people with military training who could fight in a war, or when Taiwan gets invaded, as well as people currently in the armed forces at any one time. So if you've been trained, you could get called up, but extending it by a year means there will be more active soldiers on active duty. When we use for the sake of, we mean for the purpose or for the reason of. For example, Joe started exercising more for the sake of his heart health.
为了点点点的缘故，我们可以用 for the sake of somebody or something， 或者是 for somebody's sake or for something's sake， 或者是在一个 for the purpose of 也是可以的。那例句说到的是呢 The nurses put a curtain around the patient for the sake or for the purpose of protecting his privacy。 护士们拉起病患周围的帘子，为的是要保护他的隐私。
So, that is the decision, and who knows, within a year or a few years it might be reversed, the period of service might be lengthened again, it might be changed to include women, and it's something that you could write an awful lot about. Is it worth it? Does it actually make a positive difference?
Right.
How's it affecting the young people who have to do it, or the ones who don't have to do it? And maybe I will, after this is finished recording, I'll go up and talk to our the head of our editing department.
You guys are going to write about
English Digest and say, you know what, I know this happened at the back end of last year, but we've not really done a full article exploring certain aspects of it. Maybe we should. But that's for another time and another discussion, and we're out of time at the moment. Thanks for listening to us today, everybody. For English Digest, I'm Pat.
I'm Elsie.
And we'll talk to you again soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.